Hey, what's up guys? UrAvgWarGamer is back with another video for the Warships, and in this video I'm going to be taking a look at top 5 most powerful secondary brawlers. That's right, we will try to talk about the ships that have the secondaries as gimmick along with other things which I will explain, and will give you a comparison between each other. Like if there is a good secondary brawler, there is also a good secondary brawler, we will compare it with each other, and then I will give you my conclusive thought and opinion that why I would rate one secondary battleship better than the other, and obviously we will go up to the list to the top 1 spot. So if you do find this video useful, and if you especially are a new subscriber to my channel, be sure to hit a like and also subscribe, because I make daily World of Warship videos and I will try to give you all the valuable related World of Warship videos that can help you improve your stats or also your gameplay. So you can always let me know in the comment what do you want to know about this particular game. So without further ado, let's go and talk about the number 5th ship, which is going to be the Sicilia. Okay, so now Sicilia available for 62,000 research points, so it is definitely an expensive ship, but in my opinion I still will rate it at number 5. We do have a lot of ships like, for example, the Schlieffen, the Preußen, that I kind of rate them, I would say, closer to Sicilia, maybe slightly above, maybe slightly less, which I will obviously gonna explain at number 4, at number 3. But the thing about the Sicilia, which I really like if you want to buy this battleship, and why I rate it as a good secondary brawler, is the most important thing, and that is the smoke. It has, if you, for example, this is the best case scenario, if you fully build it for smoke, which I would say highly unrecommended, because you are kind of a secondary based battleship, right? You do have SAP secondaries, right, which is unlike the tier 10 tech 3 Colombo. I would say if you want to build it for smoke, you have 80 seconds of smoke, like seriously, with the help of flag, which is absolutely crazy. 80 seconds of smoke on a battleship, and you can maneuver here and there. Here's the funny part, right? If you stay in smoke and let your secondaries use, just to give you an example, for 80 seconds, you will have your extra, or I would say you will have your heal ready after 80 seconds. Like that is the cooldown time. 77.6 seconds, or maybe if you improve it, 73 seconds. That is the typical cooldown time of heal of battleships. And you can just stay in smoke and you can just wait for your heal to come back, your DCB to come back, right? Because that's also 80 seconds of cooldown time base. And you also have the spotter. Obviously it does not have really good range, but this is the most powerful thing. I would say the SAP secondaries, they're not good. I really wish they would have given improved dispersion, something like that makes it stronger, like the case of Libertad, like the case of Schlieffen. But it's not. The SAP secondaries is not something that I really like, because they don't set fires, and obviously their pen is very limited. You can pen without a doubt, but sometimes you just not going to get a lot of value. So the SAP secondaries are fine, but here's the thing that I really like, and that is the smoke. And if you have that long smoke, even with 60 seconds base smoke, even if you use the secondaries, right, it's going to be doing really well. That survivability is the main reason why I would rate it at number 5. And also the guns. Now the guns are not like Colombo, right? It's good because you have better reload time. Compared to the Colombo, you have significantly better reload time. Like if you're using leg mod on Colombo, that is 35 seconds of reload time. And if you're using the Sicilia, with reload mod you will get to 29 seconds, which is really good. And considering you do have 16 guns with 1.6 sigma without leg mod dispersion, which obviously Colombo gets. But honestly, at mid ranges, if you're able to do devastating damage to a battleship, Sicilia can do really well. I really felt it to be pretty strong. Like your DPM numbers are pretty good. Your reload time is definitely for 16 guns good, without a doubt. At mid ranges, you will definitely gonna slap cruisers, battleships. I have really depth struck cruisers many times playing Sicilia once I able to close up the distance. Then the dispersion started to feel a lot much more decent again. And if for example anything goes bad, you have like long lasting smoke. Unlike Colombo's 45 seconds, Sicilia has better smoke overall. So I just really find Sicilia to be comfortable in survivability. In secondaries, not so much, and that's why that is one limiting factor that puts it to number 5. But even then, it's a really good battleship, without a doubt. And if you want to buy one and want to use on broadside this AP with really good shell velocity, I just would say just pick it. Yes, the EG shells will be absolutely anemic. It is without doubt really not good at all, because Colombo sap exists and you just shoot sap and do like 20k plus damage. In the case of Sicilia, well, the HE is very underwhelming and your dispersion is not exactly like that of Colombo, so you have to rely AP only. And then if you use AP on broadsides and also on superstructure, you will deal relatively decent damage. Like I have seen like 66-70% of the damage of Colombo sap with AP, because AP performance on superstructure is good. Sometimes the dispersion will troll obviously, but most of the time I felt Sicilia to be pretty good, and because of that survivability, it works well for me at number 5. Alright, so at number 4, I would rate this tech tree battleship Schlieffen to be a very, very strong secondary brawler. Now, you might be thinking, why Schlieffen at number 4? It should be around number 2 or number 3, maybe at number 1. Well, honestly, Schlieffen is a really good battleship, without a shadow of doubt. It does have decent guns with battlecruiser dispersion. It does have secondaries, which does work really well. I mean, you do have like a lot of secondaries. Like you throw so many shells, you set tons of fires if you are not using IFHE. Obviously, if you use IFHE, your pen will be significantly improved. At least you will start to penetrate the bows of battleships like 32mm, which does help a lot in close ranges, because at close ranges, your shells tend to hit onto the bows of the ship or onto the broadside of the ships, like flat waterline sort of area, rather than onto the superstructure. So that is something that is controlled by AI, because you cannot manually control the secondaries unless you're playing Prinz Rupert at tier 10, right? Those German new secondary cruisers. That is entirely a different concept, but the Schlieffen secondaries are still pretty good. Your reload time is good. The problem with the Schlieffen is, compared to the other battleships, is the survivability. I like the secondaries, they just absolutely ham onto our target and still set tons of fires, but the survivability is the key problem for me. Like your bow, 27mm, kind of like the battle cruiser. You do have some armor, without a doubt. Don't get me wrong, 50mm deck. You do have like side plating and, well, superstructure that can be farmable. But overall, I felt Schlieffen to struggle. You broadside, against enemy battleship, you're gonna get citadel. Unlike, for example, I was at Sibir. Sibir also tends to get citadeled, but Sibir does have very tanky layer of armor. It's difficult to make him citadel at maybe high penetrating sort of AP sort of battleship. So it's difficult. Sibir gets away with getting citadel, I would say, more than Schlieffen. That is my experience. Maybe you can disagree with that, but obviously Sibir can be citadel without doubt. Very easy if you are in close ranges, but if you just even slightly get angled, it's gonna bounce. Or at least you will get full pens instead of citadel. Or you can say / Kremlin. But again, this will come into this list, so that's why I'm comparing it with Schlieffen. So I would say the survivability is just the sort of the key issue. Otherwise, I have no complaints with Schlieffen. Okay, again, survivability is okay. Torpedo protection is fine. I mean, we do have some other battleship that tend to have better torpedo protection, better HP pool, like we are talking about 100,000 in the case of Ohio, in the case of Sibir. So Schlieffen definitely tends to have the issues, okay? And, well, sometimes this less amount of HP and the way I have felt that Schlieffen takes damage, it's just die a bit quicker. I mean, you do have less heals. I mean, even if you fully build it for heals, you get only 4, right, instead of the 5 in the case of Ohio. Or maybe the Sibir time-based heal, you don't get it. Your cooldown is normal. You don't have that survivability perks like in the case of Sicilia. And that is the advantage that goes to Sicilia, that you do, like, I would say, able to survive because of the smoke. In the case of Schlieffen, you have insane secondary firepower. You do have torpedoes, which again is adding the strength to the Schlieffen itself. But even with these torps and all that stuff, it's sometimes, against 2-3 targets, I have felt that it can go a bit difficult. Your cooldown time is not enough. You do have improved cooldown time on repair parties. That's actually really needed for this battleship, but it struggles. Still struggles. If Wargaming would have buffed the Schlieffen's cooldown time maybe to 40 seconds, man, it becomes a beast of a ship. And I actually gonna rate it slightly better than maybe some of the battleships at the list at lower tier. I would say not the lower tiers, at number 3, number 2. Maybe I can put the Schlieffen from number 4 to number 2 if it would get some sort of survivability buff by maybe, getting cooldown time better on repair parties. You do have the hydro. At least this is the biggest advantage. But again, survivability, that's kind of makes it sort of the limiting factor at number 4. Maybe I can talk about it in detail, but survivability, for me, it's the main factor. But you can always let me know the comment. What do you think about Schlieffen at number 4? Okay, so at number 3, I would say Ohio is a very worthy battleship at this list. Now the thing about the Ohio that I really like is that not only the guns are consistent, but unlike Schlieffen, and that is the big reason why I'm rating the Schlieffen slightly lower. Again, that's my personal opinion. You can disagree with that. But the reason why I love Ohio is massive boost in survivability while still retaining the gun performance that even Schlieffen cannot get. Like, you do have only, 420mm guns, they don't have overmatch, okay? In the case of the Ohio, at least, or I would say compared to the Sicilia, the Ohio gets 457mm guns, overmatching 30mm cruiser. Now, if you are pushing, and obviously we will talk about the secondaries later, if you are pushing, now you have this huge advantage of overmatching, which again definitely makes Ohio better. Your survivability is way better. Your anti-defense is also a lot improved. Like, I do not want to talk about anti-defense, but honestly, if you are pushing in carrier games, it can be a bit more difficult in Schlieffen than in Ohio, because you do have, not only if you want to use fighter plane, you can have it. In the case of Sicilia, you are literally still forced to utilize the spotter. You cannot use the fighter because, you have not good range. In the case of Schlieffen, you do not have any fighter consumable. So fighting against carriers is gonna be rough and tough for both ships, right? Yes, the Sicilia has one advantage, and that is the smoke. That is the only reason why I have to rate Sicilia even in this whole list, right? But at least in the case of Schlieffen, you are definitely struggling, except you do have a lot of other advantages in return, like for example the tropes, the hydro. But even then, I would say carriers can really ruin sometime your games, and that's why this fighter plane can be a blessed sort of consumable along with your overall above average anti-defense. So compared to the Schlieffen, it's definitely better, and even compared to the Sicilia. And you have overmatch, you have massive boost in survivability, the heals, like 40 seconds of cooldown time. Again, something that I wish in this Schlieffen. I really wish that they add something like this in Schlieffen, or something like in the German battleship, but they haven't. But I'm sure at some point in future, if they will make a German brawler, it will definitely gonna have some boost in survivability. Like we are seeing that Wargaming adding Valparaiso, and even the ships like the Sibir that do have a weird boost in survivability as sort of a gimmick, right? Along with their firepower, which again I do agree that they are also emphasizing on both of the things, the survivability as well, because they know people struggle to push. The survivability of battleships, at least older meta battleships, is not enough. So they just come up with a design like Valparaiso. They come up with a design like, I would say, the Wisconsin maybe, for a sniper, but still a design to boost its survivability, to push, and also the design like the Sibir that have time-based consumables. So you might see more of these things in future. And Ohio even then still works because of your massive HP, really good torpedo protection, and also really good guns. So it's balanced in every way. And funny enough, this battleship got released many years ago, since we have got the Research Bureau. The moment we got the Research Bureau released, right, this whole section released, then we got the Ohio, and Ohio still does so well. Now you might be thinking, why at number 3, should be at number 1? Well, I have my reasons. I believe that Sibir at number 2, which I will explain now, is slightly, I would say slightly more better. Now I haven't talked about the Ohio's weakness. The problem is Ohio kind of getting power crept with the help of this armor and also the airstrikes. Like, the armor sometimes now feels underwhelming under the games where there are cruisers that have like 40mm HE pen. Sometimes that tends to happen. Sometimes they have like, I would say, the William Dearest, that can just like literally counter by just dropping you once and just deplete your HP to like 20-25k in just a single drop, because it penned 40mm deck, right? And quite a lot of things in my opinion. I mean, Sibir also have the same problem against the William D. Wrist without a doubt because of 40mm deck, but still, Ohio guns at close ranges, they will do well. Like, you have really good dispersion, 2.0 Sigma, Battleship dispersion. If you use the dispersion mod, you will be doing great. But even then, I kind of have to rate slightly better Sibir, because once you get your F key, right? Once you get your F key in the Sibir, and again, the reason why I will be putting Sibir at number 2 is, well, you do have something which Wargaming recognizes. Wargaming realized that if we have to boost the survivability, then we have to give something like this time-based consumable, which guarantees you to heal all of your HP with just a single click. And that toggle-based heal is a game changer. And I believe if this is Sibir that we are getting, a time-based heal, in future we will be getting more time-based heal for sure. Maybe for the American ships, maybe. I mean, if the American destroyer burrows get the time-based smoke, what's stopping Wargaming to make time-based heal for American brawlers, like the alternate version of Ohio? Maybe we might see New Jersey. Maybe we might see, there are a lot of American ships. I know if you guys are American out there, you guys know there are so many American ships that Wargaming can release, and they can give tons of gimmicks, and that's why Sibir definitely feels better at number 2. Okay, you do have the F key, right? That basically makes the dispersion battle cruiser with 1.7 Sigma, right? So your dispersion gets insanely good, and with these guns, they hit like a truck, like the Ohio, without a doubt. But your secondaries, well, they kind of work like the Ohio. I mean, if you look at the Ohio secondaries, okay, if we take a look at the comparison, you have 3.3 seconds of reload time on Ohio secondaries, right? And here comes the Sibir. Yes, you have less secondaries, right? 4 on each side, as you can see. Or I would say, wait, I just messed up a bit. Well, unfortunately, I just accidentally said 4 on each side. It's 8 on each side because we have 8 secondaries, right, on this side, and then we have 8 secondaries. Even though we do have less secondary mounts compared to the Ohio, but the reload time of the Sibir is significantly better. Not only better, but it'll also have better fire chance for some reason, right? Look at the Ohio. Ohio has 3.3 seconds, 10% fire chance if you are using fire flags. In the case of Sibir, you have extra fire chance and way better reload time. I would say, I'm not gonna say 30-40% better. I might need to do the math, but you can already see there is a definite difference, right? So Sibir secondaries are really good, and they just have really good hitting DPM. I mean, if you go and look at the charts, the hitting DPM of Sibir is just absolutely cracked. And maybe they don't pen, but again, these are the factors. Secondaries, they have the hitting DPM, the AP performance, the F key, the time-based consumable, 40mm deck armor. That all things combined with the Kremlin overall hull makes Sibir a fantastic brawler. Without a doubt, I think Ohio is really fun ship to play, but Sibir slightly gets extra because of these things that Wargaming has given to this ship. Like, it just simply gets more fun once you are pushing in, launching your secondaries like with crazy reload time and just popping the F key. It just makes it an absolute monster. And then you just do not need to feel that I might miss out on not popping all the heals like in the case of Ohio. Even if you have 40 seconds of cooldown time, I know if you are getting focused by 3-4 ships, your HP will die in 1 minute. That's unfortunately the reality of this game, that the carrier comes, the submarine comes, the cruisers farm, the battleship duns. Like, it's crazy. And that Sibir, he'll just make sure that you will just heal all of it with the help of a single button, which is a game changer. But obviously it comes up with a downside. Just to balance this heal thing, they only give it 68,200 HP to heal, which unlike Kremlin, it's less. It's definitely less. With all the heal consumables in Kremlin, if you're using the emergency repair expert and this, you're going to be getting a lot of, I would say, healing potential. In the case of Sibir, it's limited, but also you do not need to use the commander skills. Like, that is an advantage and at the same time a disadvantage, because you still cannot heal like Kremlin. So you have to really push with your heal saved up. If you save up your heal in a push where you need that thing, I can tell you it's going to be unstoppable. It's going to be ridiculously kind of broken in some way for sure. And even more fun than Ohio. When if you are pushing in Ohio, your speed, it can also be slightly slower. Slightly slower, I'm not going to say really bad. It's just that it is under 30 knots. In the case of Sibir, at least you're still going to be slightly better, right? 31 knots, it's not going to change anything, but at least it's something. And the best thing is that I have built Ohio with all the healing potential that I need, but I have to really, I would say, sacrifice on the concealment, right? I have to do that. I have to do sacrifice on all the other captain skills. In the case of Sibir, I can just absolutely use my concealment. I can use my fire prevention, all the stuff. I do not need to like use the skills on Sibir because of the heal that is time based. So that is like saving up a lot of captain skills, which kind of makes it even more powerful without a shadow of doubt. So, and also the Kuznetsov, it's an amazing captain. Yes, the Ohio also gets the amazing captain without a doubt. I'll say with Confederate on Ohio, oh my god, that is. I can tell you one thing. If the Ohio gets the Confederate with 20% reload time, I kind of have to rate Ohio more than Sibir, because then your guns will just go bonkers. It's just going to be doing so much more damage, and Sibir will then be, not exactly at number 2 then, because of the Halsey and that Confederate buff that you get. But I in my opinion, like Sibir more. Okay, I just explained you the reasons. And also good torpedo protection, like that does help huge, because you don't have hydro like the Schlieffen. But even then, it's if I have to really say what Sibir really is, it's a Russian Ohio. It's a Russian Ohio. This is a perfect Russian Ohio design, except that I would just love to have more heal. That is the only thing that I'm just missing on it. If this ship has 2 minutes of heal, honestly, that would be just makes it so much more powerful, because your survivability is just gonna be as equivalent to that of Kremlin, almost. So again, I believe that Sibir with these gimmicks is an amazing ship. And by the way, anti-defense, long range anti-defense does help a long way. Yes, you don't have the I would say the fighter consumable, and that is the advantage that goes to Ohio against carriers, but then you do have some good torpedo protection, which does help a lot if the carrier trying to farm you. And also, well, American DCPs, that's basically the same in the case of Ohio and the Sibir, so not much relevant. But again, I have to rate Sibir at number 2. But at number 1, if you know how to do, if you know what you're doing, Libertad is the best battleship. And funny enough, it's a secondary brawler, and you can grind it for free. I think this is the good thing that at least Wargaming has done, that if you are really missing out on Sibir, that is available for doubloons, that was available for doubloons, or the Ohio that is available for research points again, well, Libertad is just available to simple grind. And honestly, it's an amazing battleship. Now, it combines the feature of kind of like Sibir, but better, Ohio, but better, which I will try to explain why I'm saying this. Now, in the case of the guns, you don't have overmatch. This is a big disadvantage, but for the massive firepower that you have under the belt of Libertad, like having cruiser level of penetration with cruiser level of fire chance, you're literally having cruisers on each side. Like literally, you have a cruiser on each side, waiting to farm a battleship or cruiser that is within your 12.5 kilometer range. I can tell you that. Amazing secondaries. Like, compared to the Sibir and Ohio, they just blow the secondaries of the Sibir and Ohio out of the water. Like, if there's a Libertad and Sibir, right, fighting against each other, and if you know how to angle against the Sibir's dispersion with F key, and you're trying to bait your armor, right? If you're trying to bait your really superior armor, I can tell you one thing: Libertad can win. against both battleships. That is how powerful Libertad really is. And it's not because of the guns. The guns on the Ohio and Sibir are good, but the Libertad still have decent guns. Like compared to the Schlieffen, you have more guns, 12 of them instead of only, I would say, 8 in the case of Schlieffen. But you still have 1.7 Sigma, again not having battle cruiser dispersion, but I still felt the guns to be really consistent, and your reload time seems to be pretty decent for what it does. But your secondaries are out of this world. These secondaries will just eat everything alive. Like Sibir and Ohio can only set fires and maybe do some damage sometimes onto the superstructure. But in the case of Libertad, it's just crazy damage with secondaries, man. Your pen is insane, 59mm. You pen basically all battleships in the game except Kremlin. The only ship that you cannot penetrate your secondaries with in Libertad is Kremlin. And even then, I mean, there are so many other sections that you can still be able to pen, like 32mm bow, the stern, Stalingrad, Moscow, Petro. All of these ships gonna be getting penned by these secondaries. You cannot run it from the secondaries as well. If you know what you're doing, here's the funny part. If you're thinking that Libertad 12.5km range is gonna be limiting factor, well, to basically compensate Libertad even more, not only that it has 13 point something kilometer concealment if you build it, right? You have a F key which kind of makes you pull that battleship back in your secondary range, right? Like if you have 12.5km range, you use the F key. Your F key loads very easily. Like you take farm potential damage, or you basically hit the shells with main battery shells, and your F key is ready. It is as simple as that. Compared to the Sibirs that really have to rely on pushing, you do not need to rely on pushing in Libertad. Sibir has to rely on pushing. In this case, no need to push. All you have to do is to just shoot the guns, and your F key will be ready. Now, here's the thing. If someone runs away from 12.5km, and that is the biggest powerful part of Libertad, your insanely amazing secondaries with insane fire chance, they do so much damage. But also, if something goes out from 12.5km to 13km, you just pop the F key and your secondaries still retain onto the target for 30 seconds. So it makes sure that you do not survive. Now, obviously there are conditions. If there's a cruiser, right, he can disengage, right? If he knows what he's doing, he can disengage. But if you are having a good destroyer player and can permanently spot a kiting ship, like in the case of maybe Des Moines, maybe a battleship like Schlieffen itself, maybe the Sibir or the Ohio is in kiting position, you can just simply use the F key and just still retain that secondaries onto a target further than 12.5km for 30 seconds. And that is a huge thing. Now you get this secondary damage as well as secondary range and reload time as well. So your secondaries get nitrous improvement. A nitrous level of buff like you find in cars. Like if you use nitrous on cars, they just boost it crazy with their acceleration. So that is kind of like the acceleration that you get with your secondaries. And with already amazing secondaries, and man, Joker Marcus Lisboa, I mean, if you have this captain, I don't know, man. The secondaries gets even more absurd. They have never nerfed the secondaries. They have only nerfed its acceleration, which was completely broken. It makes the ship so much survivability that you just become a Ferrari. Before the nerf, you were a Ferrari, but after the nerf, you are still pretty decent. Your acceleration, you do have improved parameters on acceleration still. You accelerate quickly, but now you cannot retain the speed during turns, so you de-accelerate quickly as well. But at the time, when you used to have that, acceleration, you just speed juke like crazy. You just basically really knocking battleships AP in the water, because you just simply accelerate and de-accelerate and speed juke all that stuff. Now it's difficult, but your secondaries still retain the same. Your guns still retain the same. It's crazy good. Now you can argue your survivability. What's about that? Like you do get so much decent firepower, not the overmatch, but amazing secondaries. Like there is nothing that is better than Libertad secondaries in the game. But what about the survivability? Well, to compensate that, unlike Schlieffen, which I would have loved to see in Schlieffen, they managed to give Libertad 60 seconds of cooldown time on heals. Now, if you are using flags and skill stuff like that, commander skills stuff, you can get it to 55 seconds, which is amazing. And well, even your heal is extra compared to the Schlieffen, right? You have like 5 heals, and if you use improved repair party readiness, which you can also do in Schlieffen. Schlieffen also can get 5 heals, but in this case, you get 6 heals, your HP pool is more, so you are decently survivable, and also your armor is pretty decent. Your superstructure is kinda small, it's obviously there, the superstructure can be farmed, but overall your armor is fully covered with 51mm, and unlike Schlieffen, or I would say unlike Sibir and Ohio, most of the time, Libertad, I find it very, very difficult. It's kind of like the same thing, that it just gives you so much troll when you are trying to citadel on broadside, right? As you can see, you do have raised citadel above waterline, but it's very thick, 406, and you do have like a spaced armor. If you can look at this space, look at this space. You see, this thing along with this thing with the space in between gives very high citadel protection. It's crazy, and that's the reason why Libertad has to be in number 1 for me, because of your survivability, your cooldown time on heals, and your really good concealment. And by the way, your speed, if you're thinking your speed is 31.5 knots, well, stop here, because it can go to 34 knots, and with the help of Joachim Marquis Lisboa, you have improved brisk that can actually get the ship up to 35, 36, 37 knots. That is ridiculous. Your speed can be as good as some of the fast battleships at this tier. And now I'm not gonna say that it's as fast as Burgon, or I would say the Georgia or whatever like this. Those are really fast with speed boost, but without speed boost you have decent speed with 37 knots, and you do have like acceleration that is also helping you a lot. So you do have everything going for it, like your secondaries. I mean, look at the secondary battery load time, main battery load time buff that you can get. This alone, and along with these things, makes it superior ship compared to all the battleships that I've explained at lower list. So what do you think about the Libertad? I believe it's one of the most powerful battleships if played correctly, although I have seen a lot of players just simply push and just die like dumb, honestly, which is not the way it should be played. But at least you can always let me know in the comment, what do you think about the Libertad at number 1, and all the other ships like the Sibir at number 2, the Ohio at number 3, I would say Schlieffen at number 4, and Sicilia at number 5. Now, there are some honorable mentions, like in the case of Mecklenburg. Mecklenburg, by the way, if you build it for secondaries, you have decent secondaries, by the way. 32mm base pen. If you build it for secondaries, these secondaries can actually work on Mecklenburg, but alongside with that, you do have really good firepower. Battle cruiser dispersion with 2.05 sigma absolutely works on this battleship. In my opinion, Mecklenburg among all the Germans is one of the best, at least at long ranges. Yes, you do not get insane Schlieffen secondaries and also even the Hydro, but you do have anti-defense, which is significantly better compared to many other battleships that I have even listed. Yes, I haven't listed the Libertad. Your anti does suck, without a doubt. That is something that the carrier comes, it will definitely gonna focus you and can do problem for you. But if we do not take the carriers into account, Libertad will gonna be the best. But Mecklenburg, I would say, is a very, very strong battleship. Now, I will not gonna be putting it at number 4 and replacing it with Schlieffen, because it does have a different role. Not kind of like the Brawler, because your I would say firing angles are not for that. Like, your firing angles are absolutely atrocious. The biggest reason why I cannot put Mecklenburg at number 4, replacing the Schlieffen. Schlieffen has better firing angles. At least you can angle against ships. You do not need to show broadside. In the case of Mecklenburg, you have a lot of guns. So if you want to push, you can push, but you have to play most of the time in kiting, because, well, it's kind of designed for more that. Even though you do have some brawling capabilities, which kind of makes it, I would say, like a lot for me as an honorable mention. And also the Rhode Island as an honorable mention. Again, the same thing as with the Mecklenburg. You do have vulnerable citadel. Bow is not the best, 27mm, which kind of makes its survivability weaker. It's kind of like the cruiser. I cannot rate it like a battleship, but it's pretty good for a battleship, at least better than cruisers for sure. So I would say Rhode Island and Mecklenburg are honorable mentions. At least Rhode Island, at least in pushing, does get the radar, which is a very unique feature. And funny enough, it's coming back in the Black Friday event, so you maybe can get a hand on this ship. And obviously the guns, just like the Mecklenburg, are amazing. They have improved pan angles and all that stuff. I love Rhode Island as well. It's a very, very powerful battleship, but again, simply not designed for brawling purposes rather than kiting. That is something that you do better in rather than pushing. But if you have to, at least compared to the other brawlers, it does have a cooldown time on heals, which means kinda you can make it work in that way as well when you're pushing because of those heals. But even then, these are my honorable mentions. And what do you think about the list? Let me know in the comments. Take care guys, I have taken a good time to make this video. Please like this content, share this to other players, so if they want to know their secondary battleship that they can buy and want to enjoy the game, you can share it with them. Take care guys, and peace out.